Jasmine Jones. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and you are now watching Therapist Sips and Reviews, and we are reviewing I May Destroy You, episode 10, The Cause, The Cure. Today we're slipping on ginger ale. For anybody that's new here, I recently had a surgery. I did a video about it, maybe the video before last. And so I will be having my ice pack and a non-alcoholic beverage because it's daytime and I still have to work. And also, I don't know how I would feel on alcohol with all this shit going on inside my body right now. I don't want to deal with it. So we're just drinking ginger ale for right now. Maybe next week we'll get back to something a little bit more spicy. Yes. So this episode made me just rethink the idea of forgiveness and letting things go, especially when somebody, proves to you your whole life that, or proves to you for over a long period of time that they are a changed person. And, I had to eat some of my words from the beginning of this show where I felt like Terry was a whole bitch. But she has shown herself to be a better friend and shown herself to have changed and worked on problems that she was having that were looking like they were a pattern until something really bad happened. And then, she figured out, oh, I need to stop doing this. And she stopped. So, and I have to give that to her. And I'm not going to apologize for the fact that she did some fuck shit before. But, it seems like she's proven herself. And so it just kind of made me rethink forgiveness, and I think I like the way they set up the characters in this show to where there's a lot of time that passes where you can see the development of the character in one season. There's so much development of these characters, like, background stories, why they act the way they act, and things like that, and it just kind of lets you know who they are, when a lot of shows don't really do that. And so I like that it's been a year, basically, since Bella was assaulted, so, and so I feel like, Michaela Cola is the shit. Wherever her talents and things are coming from, it's from a God space, and she is utilizing it to the best of her ability. She's putting up boundaries against these fucking production companies that want her to do shit she doesn't want to do, and it's amazing. And I stand a self-assertive, talented bitch, and there you go. So we start this episode off with little Bella and her brother in their apartment. She's waiting on her dad to bring her some McDonald's. It's nighttime, and before they even started talking about her dad, I just was like, oh well, look, he came, he brought her the McDonald's, and she was happy and things like that. Come to find out, she's been waiting. She was most likely waiting most of the day to get that McDonald's, and that's why she gobbled down the fries in the beginning, because she will refuse to eat if her dad says he's coming and he's going to bring her things and food and stuff, and she will sit there and refuse to eat for however long it takes till her dad gets to where she's at. And that's very sad, because I also had an absentee father. Ooh, excuse me. And I remember doing shit like that. Oh, you're going to pick me up at 11 and we're going to spend the day together? Get dressed, sitting at the window waiting until 5 p.m. in the evening, until 10 o'clock at night. And so I can understand that. And now today I have issues with people that are flaky. So yeah. Then we go to Bella, and we skip over to Kwame. Kwame's like on a treadmill, and he's like at the gym. So Kwame's still doing this sex makes me feel better thing. So he's getting texts from dudes, picking up niggas off the bus and things like that. And I hope those are some sturdy I just feel cautious when you're having multiple partners that you don't know. I just hope those are some sturdy condoms You know, you can still get herpes. You know, herpes can just lay on your skin anywhere. So that part that your pubes and balls and shit that's not covered by the condom can get herpes on them. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there. For the overly promiscuous folks that, you know, just fuck people randomly and they're strangers and things. Because it's dangerous out there, y'all. There's diseases. Be safe. And we go back to Bella, and she is getting a call from her dad. So the same childish excitement to see father is still within her. And, you know, she doesn't see him for who he really is. That's why I always tell my clients, you have to take people off of the pedestal that you put them on when you assign them a label, assign them a role. Like the pedestal of dads. So dads are supposed to be loving and great and wonderful and there for you and teach you how to do sports and other shit and whatever. And you're not seeing that your father is a person. And your father went through things in life that causes him to treat you and treat other people and treat himself the way he does. That has nothing to do with you. And those are just the consequences of his issues. But because she has him on daddy pedestal, she sees him as this great and wonderful being no matter what he does. You know, just trying to, you know, shower him with love in order to maybe keep him around and things like that. So she's calling her on the phone, and he is promising her that he will be there this evening at her mother's birthday. And so she's really happy about that. Then we go over to Terry. She's practicing an audition with Ben. So Ben's real, and I was tripping. But you know, they set that shit up. I know, because they barely showed him. And when they showed him, he was just standing around in places and nobody was really talking to this nigga. You know, like, that's all I'm saying. Like, what else? They said, I feel like it was a setup. Because there were too many times where he was just randomly around and nobody was paying attention to this motherfucker. Nobody was looking at him. Nobody. So I feel justified in questioning whether this motherfucker is real or not. Okay, so Terry is practicing for a role with Ben in the living room, and we go over to Arabella. She is still in her room, so she's holding up Simon's jacket while on the phone with her dad, and she is looking through the stuff from the rape and I guess sorting it, and I guess, you know, later on we see that she's going to give Simon his jacket back. And, you know, she has a flashback to when Simon gave her the jacket and when they were walking to the bar because she was cold. Arabella walks into the living room, and because Ben told her that Terry was there. And so she walks into the living room and she's telling Terry about how her dad's going to be there. And Terry knows about her dad since childhood, like how he doesn't show up to shit and keep the promises or whatever. So Terry's just like, oh, okay. You notice that they all kind of feed into Arabella's just like wherever she's at the moment, which is great as long as she doesn't go into a space where she's harming herself or can't function in certain environments and things like that. So, you know, they're kind of just giving it to her until she figures it out for herself instead of just telling her about herself, which is, you know, what therapists do. You know, we kind of ask you a bunch of questions in a roundabout way till you come up with the answer. And then it's more impactful that way. It's like, oh, this was inside me all along. Yes, it was. You were just in denial, most likely. So that's, I'm assuming that's what her friends are doing. But Terry is kind of like, she's just like, well, she doesn't like her dad, so she's talking shit about her own dad. And then Terry, Ben, and Arabella just doubling down on the fact that Ben is real now. Are outside and they're all talking together. You know, oh, Arabella's mom calls at some point too. So that doubled down. First that doubled down because mom said hi to everybody. She saw everybody. And the mom was just checking in to see when Arabella's going to be there for her birthday. And then they all go outside and Terry is talking about Arabella's book because she hasn't, you know, finished it. And Arabella's like, well, you know, I'm on an extended vacation and stuff. And then Terry's like, well, you don't get paid until you get the book. And she's like, oh, well, you know, I'm sure they're focused on other artists. So Arabella, either it could be anxiety. Usually lack of motivation is anxiety, you know, to go back to the norm, because when you do art, you got to go deep inside yourself to find some shit to create into something else. And deep inside yourself means your emotions and shit. And, you know, she's already trying to process through the emotions of being sexually assaulted. you know, and then now you want her to process and turn some shit into the rest of her book that has nothing to do with her being sexually assaulted, you know. So she has to get back into the mindset that she was before she was sexually assaulted and just kind of finish that book, when her whole focus is still on the fact that she was sexually assaulted. Arabella is not ready yet. She's not there to be processing two really deep things at the same fucking time. So she's in denial about it, and she's pushing it to the side. And as we can see, denial and repression has been with her since she was a child, when it comes to her dad and her relationship with him. Next, we see Kwame on the bus, and Kwame is picking up multiple bus niggas, just meeting niggas all on Grindr on the bus and just going home with them and fucking them, and, you know, just trying to fuck his pain away. And it's not gonna work if you have to keep doing the same thing over and over again just to feel something or to feel, you know, happy for a second. Eventually you have to realize that's an addiction, because it only lasts for a second, and then you have to do it again for it to work again. So yeah, you have to realize you have a problem eventually. And then we see Bella and Terry at the audition. Terry's nervous, and, you know, Arabella's just there as moral support before she goes in. And then once Terry goes in, she goes to meet with Simon. So she's going to give Simon his jacket back, and Arabella's like, you know, are you mad at me? And he's like, no, I'm not mad at you. And he asks, are you mad at me? And she's like, no, I'm not mad at you. I just, you know, I'm mad at you sometimes. That's what she says. I'm mad at you sometimes, and then other times, you know, I feel really bad because that I would accuse you of some shit like that. And, you know, I'm accusing every fucking body that was there until the person comes forward. I don't give a fuck. If I don't remember what happened and you are one of the people with the penises, even if you're not one of the people with the penises, if I feel suspicious, I am accusing you. I don't care. No, because then that means that you lost track of where I was at. But that's just me. That's just how I am. I'm not going to apologize for not knowing, you know, because people can just come out of nowhere like that and do some sexual assaulty things to you, and you never know. And she kind of had a flashback too, and put his face on the guy that was hovering over her in the bathroom. We still don't know what happened that night. That's all I'm saying. We still don't know who assaulted her. That's all I'm saying. And then they like have a little chit chat and forgive each other or whatever the fuck. And then Simon is just rambling on about, well, yeah, and I shouldn't have had to take the fall for, you know, what she told me to do, and she told me to leave and stuff, and, you know, I feel bad for leaving, but she told me to leave, and so she should carry some of the weight for it too, and da-da-da. And Arabella just looks at him and goes, she who? And Simon is like, oh shit, because he thought Terry had told her, and that's why she was coming to hang out with him and talk to him and shit like that. Then we go over to Arabella, and she's with her mother and brother in the kitchen, and she is cooking food for her mother's birthday, and the food looks magically delicious. I don't know what country in Africa they're from, but, you know, I'm always down to eat some African food, Ethiopian food. What other African food have I had? I probably had other African food, but the one that stands out is Ethiopian food, because that's what's all over Southern California. But I would love to try some different types of African food. If y'all know different restaurants around Southern California that serve African food, you can post it below, because I just like food. So any type of food I'm happy to partake in and try and eat the whole thing. On a tangent. But yeah, so anyways, she's helping her mom cook, and they're talking about, I think they're talking about her dad is supposed to come and things like that, and what time he's supposed to come and whatever. And Terry calls, and Arabella just flips the phone over and doesn't answer it. So she's feeling some type of way about what Simon says. So I think she's still processing it, you know. I think she's upset, but at the same time she's also processing, like, fuck this, what the fuck that, how the fuck you go? You know, that whole cuss the nigga out in your head type shit. While she is at her mom's house, her aunt comes over, and I think it's just like her mom's friend, you know, like how we, in the black community, we got the aunties and uncles that's really just your mom's friend and shit, the godmothers and shit, comes over, and she has a card for her mom. And so she sits there and she says hi to Arabella and her brother, and then she just sits there and it's like really awkward and shit. And Arabella's just like looking around, smiling and not paying attention. And you know, I didn't know, I was just like, maybe she's just awkward with her, or maybe because afterwards they were talking about, because they were speaking in their language and her brother was teasing her because she doesn't remember their language, and so maybe that's why she was just kind of trying to stay out the business and whatever. But we find out later why she was awkward. And you know, so she was awkward, and then her mom comes in and hugs the auntie, and then the auntie leaves. So the auntie can't, because I thought that was weird. I was like, why would she just come to give a card and then leave? I'm confused. Isn't that her mom's friend? Like, why isn't she staying for to get together and stuff? And you know, but yeah. Shooting over next to Arabella, little baby Arabella and her brother. And Arabella has been sitting since 3 p.m. in the afternoon waiting for her dad to take her to McDonald's for lunch. And she hasn't eaten anything until her dad has come. So this is where we solidify that her dad isn't around like he's supposed to be. He's not there. You know, she's like the fun dad that just comes in and is like, oh, hey, stuff things. But when you really have problems or you really need me, I'm not going to be there. No. You know, and so she's been sitting there and it's 10 o'clock at night. And, you know, her auntie, her mom's friend that came to give her the card, comes in, and then her mom comes in, and they just chit-chatting about how that nigga ain't shit. You know, and how he shouldn't be leaving his child here. And her mom trying to get her to eat. She's refusing to eat until her dad brings her McDonald's. Like, she's just sitting there, like, she's putting all of this energy into somebody that if you looked at him as an individual person and saw him as separate from you, then you would understand that him not being there is not your fault. You waiting up isn't going to do anything. It's not going to make you feel better. But she's a child. She doesn't understand that shit. That's why I just feel like if you're not ready to have kids, don't have the fucking kids. It's like you fucked her up for the rest of her life. This is where her low self-esteem is coming from. This is where her feeling not good enough is coming from. This is where I have to go above and beyond for people to like me. And beg and do crazy shit like break into people's houses and shit like that, like I did with my dad when I was younger. So there's a scene where she breaks into his house because she needs to change her clothes, and that was just normal for her. So then we go back to Italy, nigga, and we see, oh, that's why you felt that was okay. You know, see, mental health is just connected. That's why I like reviewing it. Next I'm gonna do Lovecraft Country, because this is gonna be ending around the time it starts or some shit like that. So it's gonna be like sci-fi and black people and slavery and mental health and shit in the 1950s, 60s, 40s South. It's gonna be awesome. I'm so excited for that show. It's fun. Anyways, yeah, that's where she gets her shit from. That's why she thought that shit was normal, because she did it with her dad, and that's how she thinks she's gonna get men, because that's what she learned from it. Who we learn to socialize from first is our parents. And that shit follows us. Even if we pick up some shit here and there from our friends and things like that, we go home and we see our parents or our caregivers every single fucking day. We don't see our friends as much as we see our family. How we learn to deal with anger, how we learn to deal with conflicts, how we learn to get relief, you know, is from our parents. So that shit follows us until we realize it's a problem one day. You know, we realize that people don't want to be around us like that. People don't want to talk to us like that. We keep going to jail. We keep, you know, getting like super high and ending up blacking out all the time. You know, after we get tired of all of that, then we go to a therapist, and the therapist points out, oh, so you broke into Italy nigga's house just like you broke into your dad's house. You know, the connections that, you know, either we never make by ourselves, or it takes us years to make those connections. And that's why, like, when people are in their 50s and 60s, they feel like wiser and shit. But a therapist can make that connection real quick and be like, oh, so that is connected to that, and that makes sense. And I have so many clients, this is a tangent, I don't give a fuck. I have so many clients that just be looking at me like, oh, wow, I'm just like my mom? Really? I'm like, you didn't notice that you do the same thing as her? Like, But then, you know, I have to step back and see shit that I did like my mom. I think it's more so denial. We don't want to see, and that's why we get angry at our parents sometimes, because we don't want to see that in a lot of ways we are our parents, and the way our parents treated us has followed us, and how we survived that has followed us for the rest of our lives. We want to believe we're over it and we're fine. It just heal. It hurts. It's going to be like, you know, slowly ripping your skin off, but eventually it's going to heal and you're going to feel better, instead of, oh, I need to stuff it down and ignore it and then lash out at people or lash out at myself and shit. You know, connections are beautiful. That's, you know, I didn't even make that. I did see that her dad affected her when I first saw the episode, but now, like, that whole connection between breaking in to her dad's home and then breaking into Italy nigga's home, and how normal that was for her, is like, oh. And she wasn't high. She was just emotional and had adrenaline running through her and shit. She was not cautious. She was not scared or anything. She was just like, oh, and I'm just going to sit here in his house, just like I did in my daddy's house when I was waiting for him to come home, and, you know, all of those things. So it's interesting. Anyways, she's sitting at the dinner table waiting for her dad to come to her mother's birthday party. And she has refused to let anybody at the table eat until her dad comes. And this is after, you know, the flashback where she's little and her mom and her aunt are talking shit about her dad because she's sitting there starving herself because she's a child and she don't know no fucking better. And so we go back to the back to life, back to anyways, we go back to the present, and she's sitting there waiting. She will not let anybody eat her mother's birthday dinner until her dad comes, because he said he was coming. Girl, if her dad hadn't came, because she's still in that denial shit, I'm just wondering how she, like, would she have cracked? Like, what would have happened after being assaulted and all this shit happening to her, and what would have happened if he hadn't come? But, you know, and her brother's just looking at her just really sad, and he's been looking at her really sad since they were kids. Just every time she would do that shit over her dad and shit, he would just look at her like really fucking sad. So that no one's gonna say anything, and her mom is just like sticking with it, you know, that they don't know that she's been sexually assaulted. I thought her mom knew, but she doesn't know that at this point that she's been sexually assaulted. They just like give in to her, you know, and hope one day that she'll figure out. See, this is the point where you have to be like, okay, the hoping one day that she's going to figure it out herself may not come because she's grown. So, you know, at some point as a child, she needs to go to therapy and talk about this shit, because she's starving herself to 10 o'clock at night. That's a mental health issue. See, that's when you know, you have to know when to let people figure shit out and then when not to. Like, they need a little push, they need a little help, so she would have grown into a more well-rounded adult. But, you know, a lot of communities of color don't believe in therapy and shit, so, you know, they probably was just like, well, let's just let it happen, and I don't want to yell at my child, and she's just a child, and she just want her daddy, and I don't want to make her feel bad for wanting her daddy. Which is fair, but at the same time, it's like, you should did something. Something should be done. So people out there, take your children to therapy. Yes. Her dad finally comes, and you know, it's been a few hours. You can tell since Arabella got there to when he comes. It's still, sun is still up, but still, it's been a few hours. And Arabella is just super happy, and they sit the same way with their feet crossed, and you know, and then Arabella's dad starts talking shit to his son, like, oh, why aren't you doing this, why aren't you doing, is that like normal in, you know, different African cultures? I know there's a lot of masculine machismo with, what is it, patriarchy type shit in a lot of cultures, but is that like normal to like talk shit to your son about how he's not good enough? And he's a grown-ass man and shit. And, you know, his son is taking it in stride, and it's just like, you know, he goes to the kitchen to get something to eat, and he needs a minute. And he comes back and acts like nothing's wrong and shit. And then their dad starts talking about, you know, the time his car got robbed and how the house got robbed the day before that. And he's telling Arabella that it was her fault because she snuck in the house and left the window open. And Arabella's like, what? I don't remember that. So this is where we see that she has been repressing shit and forgetting bad things since she was really young. So even when she was a child and he wouldn't show up, she pushed those negative feelings to the back to always see him as this amazing person. So we go to a flashback, and Arabella is hanging out with Terry, little teenage Arabella. They're like walking around. Some boys are there, and they walk past some boys. So Arabella is gonna go sneak into her dad's house to change her clothes so they can walk back past those boys and look cuter under some teenage shit. I don't. Niggas will love you if you are in a fucking trash bag, girl. You just have to have confidence and swag, but teenagers don't know that. Anyway, so they're walking to her dad's house, and Terry just asking her questions like, is your mom and dad divorced? Why do they live in separate houses? What is all, like, what's their relationship? And Arabella's like, you know, oh, they just live in separate houses, and I go to their house whenever I want, and da 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 da. So Arabella goes to her dad's house whenever she wants, meaning she sneaks into her dad's house and stuff like that whenever she wants. So this is normal wise behavior. And so Arabella sneaks into her dad's house, and this is something that I guess she was in denial about, or she forgot. Or not forgot, but I think she repressed. There you go, denial, or she repressed it. But she was acting weird around the aunt. So the emotions can still stay there even though you don't know why you feel that way around that person. So she may not have had access to the memory, but she had access to that awkward emotion of, oh. So anyway, she goes into the house, she's going up the stairs, and her mom's auntie friend is standing at the top of the stairs with her dad's shirt on, hanging down to her knees. And Arabella's just like, this whole time she's thinking her dad is a king amongst men. And this shit just jarred the memory out of her when her dad brought up the fact that she was sneaking in and out of his house and his shit got stolen and stuff like that. So this shit fucks her up. This memory fucks her up, and she comes back out of it, and her mom is coming in the room. And, you know, Arabella asked her, like, what is her dad's relation? Like, oh no, she asked her mom, is auntie, like, are you really close to auntie? And I think her mom kind of knew what she meant, because she just says, you know what, I'm single and I'm sexy, and that's all that, I know that's fucking right, bitch. Yes, because she was so beautiful. She was on her birthday. Fuck that. She was like, I'm single and I'm sexy and da 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 da. And she was just like, okay. So mom knew, and then she lays her head on her mom's chest and she tells her mom about her sexual assault in January. Then we go to Kwame, and I'm so happy for him. He's getting another chance at potential love. So Kwame is going back and forth, finding these bus niggas and shit like that, and he comes across the bus nigga that makes him a drink and then makes him dinner and just wants to talk. Bitch. See, this is how, like, dating without the sex part is in real life. You meet like a shit ton of fuck niggas, and right before you're ready to give up, here come the one that's nice and kind and shit. And Kwame don't know how to deal with this. He just is trying to fuck away the pain. So he's not ready to deal with, you know, somebody being nice to him and gentle with him. And Kwame trying to not force the issue, but he leaned over to kiss him, and dude was like, nah, I'm good. Let's just do other things. Let's talk and get to know each other. And Kwame was like, well, you know what Grindr's for. Why did you pick me? And he was like, well, I like your pictures. So he saw something special in Kwame, and he wanted to make him some dinner and talk to him and get to know him. And I was just like, Kwame, you need to let him be nice to you, because Kwame was trying to be all defensive and an asshole and shit. And I was like, Kwame, you let him be nice. You let him be nice to you. You take this niceness. God is giving you a second chance at potential kindness in a fucking man, okay? You know, it doesn't necessarily mean love. It could, but at least take the kindness. Take the kindness. And Kwame turns around. He's about to walk out, and because I think the guy asked him what did he want, or what did he need, or something, or maybe he did, I don't know. But Kwame turns around, and he's standing at the door, and he's ready to walk out, and he just stops. So beautiful. And he turns around and he says, I want a hug. And it's so beautiful. And this man gets up and he gives him a hug, and you know, it's just romantic. I am a fool for romance. Don't come for me. I hope they stay together forever. And you know, It's a beautiful thing. But even if they don't, at least in this moment, Kwame has somebody that can help him heal in an environment that he is comfortable with without having to extend himself too much when it comes to healing, because he's not ready for therapy yet. You know, he has to get past the fact that this is his addiction, and he hasn't got past that fact. So hopefully this will help him get past that fact, and he will go to therapy and do the things that he needs to be doing. Yes, God, honey. Oh, it's so beautiful. Then we go to Arabella is meeting with Terry in the bar, and I was just like, this bitch, you better read this hoe, you better, and it made me feel like all sorts of emotions, because I can see why she would forgive her. So she forgave Terry, and she didn't even bring it up, and Terry wanted to, you know, because Arabella left an opening for her to admit what she said. I think she did, because she said she went and saw Simon, and Terry was like, did Simon say anything? And Arabella was quiet for a long ass time. But, you know, then I think Terry was about to say something, and then they did and then Arabella did the little cheers that they do for each other, ride or die, or some shit that I don't remember, so don't come for me. And I was like, that's so beautiful. And then Arabella was like, you are an amazing friend, and thank you for all you've done over this past year. So I think what Arabella was saying was like, regardless of the shit you've done in the past, you really proved that you are a good friend, and I'm going to give you another chance. And I think it took Arabella not knowing from jump that Terry told him to leave for her to be like, for her to give her friend that chance. And so, you know, I also feel like it was this your last time, bitch. I don't want to feel that way. I don't care. I feel like it was this is your last time though. We're not doing this again though. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And then I think what helped her forgive Terry was the fact that she had to radically accept who her dad was, because they skipped to the next scene and Arabella walks back downstairs and she serves her dad food like an act of forgiveness. And I thought she was going to waste the food on him. I thought, you know, but no, it was like, I accept this man for who he is, and I will take, you know, the positive that he gives me, and I will put boundaries around the negative. It was a step towards that. I won't say it's completely, because that shit takes work too. Shit. She's still gonna get them pangs of excitement when he calls, shit like that, and probably feel upset when she remember why he's the way he is and all this other shit. The body remembers. The body keeps the emotions inside until you get the body used to not having the emotions. So, you know, and then Arabella's brother asked her, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. And she's still serving her dad food. And then her mom is just sitting across from her brother looking shell-shocked with this fake-ass smile on her face, mechanically chewing her food, like in really deep thought. Like, you know that shit fucked her. Like, as a parent, I'm not a parent, but like, just as a parent, like, just knowing that somebody hurt your child, especially in that way, it's like, what do you do with all those emotions? Like, and she had to sit there and act like nothing was wrong and not make a scene because nobody else knows, and she doesn't want to, like, she wants to respect Arabella's boundaries and shit. Like, as a parent, like, that's fucking horrible. That's torturous. I feel like that was torture for her to sit there and act like she was fine. And that's how we're in, on her face, on her mom's face, mechanically chewing her food. Like, I don't even think she swallowed one. She was just sitting chewing the whole time, acting like she was okay, but she wasn't. So I'm excited for the next episode. We got like, excuse me, 2 more episodes left. So, oh my gosh, somebody said 9, and I had to go to IMDb, and I was like, okay, I wasn't wrong. There's 12 of them. Y'all not gonna jip the Americans, even though we are fucked up. We are a fucked up country. We still gonna get all 12 episodes. So I'm excited to see where it goes. It looks like Arabella is healing. She is, you know, making her friendships better. Kwame accepted kindness, and it was a beautiful thing. And we're learning about forgiveness. This show is just a roller coaster. You know, you start off like you think it was any other show where you hate some characters but it's so many shades of gray, and it makes you think about random shit, and it's just like, this is a lot. I had to turn it off. I got all depressed and shit last night. I was like, this is a lot. This is an emotional ass show. Like, you need to take a step back from it occasionally and be like, and then you see it all together as one season, and how it all intertwines. Michaela Cole is amazing. She's a bad bitch. I would love to meet her one day and just be like, how do you think of all the things that you think of, and you know, how do you put it together to make something beautiful? Because that shit is bomb as fuck. But yeah, let me know what y'all think of this review. Like, share, and subscribe, which I rarely say, but I'm gonna say it. You know, I'm almost at 300 people. Hi. I think that's cool. Like, 300 people subscribe to me. I mean, it's not a lot. I'm not no fucking, like, you know, I got like a gazillion subscribers, but it's okay. I think that, like, we're like a little community and stuff of people that like to watch movies and learn about mental health, because that's the type of shit I used to do all the time. Don't watch movies and shows with me. I will sit there and very loudly analyze every character and then be like, tell you exactly what happened, especially Law and Order SVU. Even though there's some sexist and racist things in that show and all the other stuff, I usually know who the killer is by the middle of the show, and I'm usually right, and I will say it out loud and have everybody looking like, why you tell who the killer? Cause it's usually the person that they show in the beginning of the show, and then they don't show again until the middle of the show. You know, the first suspect are like one of the witnesses that they show, and you're kind of like, and then they don't show them again, and then you're like, where did this nigga go? It's usually that person, and I'm usually right most of the time, so, right. Anyways, later days.